Have you ever heard of the healing power of laughter? Now get out of here. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. In celebration of the upcoming Batman movie, I have decided to go back and rewatch Batman 89, directed by Tim Burton and starring Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson, and Kim Basinger. Apologies, Kim Basinger, I never know how to say your name.
Kim Basinger? Basinger? Basinger?
Batman 89 was actually the second time Batman got a big screen appearance. There is an Adam West movie version. It's not very good. A lot of people do consider this to be the first real time that Batman was put on the cinematic screen. And this movie doesn't necessarily tell the story of Bruce Wayne. He is absolutely a character that you get to know and understand, but it isn't his heritage. It isn't about his rise to becoming the Batman. He's already the Batman. It's actually about him meeting his first real foe. The first foe that can realistically, I've still got white makeup on my hands from that Joker skit. The Joker is the first real foe that can go toe to toe with Batman and actually ask him a few questions. Because prior to that, he's just been taking out bank robbers and criminals, petty thieves, that kind of thing. And they're all shit scared of Batman, as they would be. They don't stand a chance against him. The Joker turns up and he is a force to be reckoned with. And that is realistically what this film is about. Two opposing forces clashing against each other in a fictional setting. Say what you want about Tim Burton, but he absolutely recognised that about the Batman and Joker's relationship. But before we go any further, could you be a dear? Hit that like button and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really does help me and the channel massively, and we thank you if you do. I think this movie has a fantastic introduction. There's a sort of bait and switch. If you're new to the film, it might work, but if you've seen it a few times like me, you know what's going to happen. But you follow this very unknowing family through the bustling streets of Gotham, and you would very easily be forgiven if you thought they were the Waynes. It is a bait and switch. They are just some targets for some robbers so that the Batman can then arrive and beat up the robbers. I think it's so cleverly done because you get to see the streets of Gotham, what it's like to traverse the streets of Gotham, and you get your first encounter with Batman as well. You tick a lot of boxes within the first 5 minutes here. I also feel that the city of Gotham just totally plays directly into a Tim Burton playbook. This is totally up his street and imagination. And I think he flexes his muscles with it perfectly. The smoke, the sort of cartoonish setting that is, it's on a line, isn't it? I feel like if he went any further, then we'd be sort of in that Joel Schumacher territory. Here he just keeps it at a bar of stupid, but I can buy it. It's dark, it's gritty, it's criminal, it feels like Gotham. I also really like Michael Keaton as Batman. I think he does it perfectly. He's a great Bruce Wayne. He has that sort of swaggering charm towards the women, and he sort of knows it. He's quite the playboy, and he knows that people sort of wait on his hand and foot, and he can just behave the way he wants to. He doesn't necessarily do it all the time, and I feel like he does it when it doesn't matter. Like, well, I have nowhere to put this pen, so I'm just going to put it on this bush here, and Alfred comes and cleans it up. He's never intolerable. He's never just like throwing a glass over his shoulder and letting it smash on the floor and thinking, oh, someone will clean that up. I also think, without very little being said at times, I think he actually shows that he has trust issues, and I think he shows that quite nicely. The whole part where Kim Basinger is coming towards him and asking to meet Bruce Wayne, and he doesn't just say, you're a beautiful girl, I'm Bruce Wayne. He actually lets her just sort of scoot by and say, no, I haven't seen him, because you can tell he wants to say, well, why do you want to talk to me? Trust issues. I like that. Subtly done. And what I like in juxtaposition to that is he is so overly confident as the Batman. You see it in his face. He looks like he could kick anybody's ass. And I kind of like that about Keaton as Batman. But there are aspects where I think he gets it wrong. And I don't really think it's Keaton who got it wrong. I think it's whether it's Burton or the writing team. It's the age-old question. Does Batman kill? For me, no. I think it makes the water way too muddy. I think that it's more interesting to know that Batman has this complex morality of, I will kick the living fuck out of you and potentially paralyze you, but ending your life that you don't deserve. That's That's complicated. I want to explore that. I want to unravel that. I want to know more about his psychology and his thinking, how he can justify that behavior but not going the next step where, where his criminal enemies would go. I find that fascinating. That's one of my favorite things about Batman. So for him to suddenly muddy the waters and kill people, it just removes any of the morality complex for me. I also think his suit is just way too, it's not ready, is it? It looks great, but it's not ready for what the film is asking Batman to do. He can't move his head without his shoulders coming with him. He's so stiff and rigid, and you're asking him to have fights with ninjas. It's not gonna translate fantastically. But that being said, I still think Keaton really does bring his A game, and he really does try and elevate this to the best it can possibly be. I think he's great as Batman. I'm really excited to see him come back in this new Flash movie. I don't know much about that Flash movie. I just know he's meant to be in it. I don't even know when it's coming out. Is it this year? Next year? I don't know. And staying on the performances, Jack Nicholson absolutely fucking rocks as the Joker. He steals the show. You could easily argue that this film is actually the Joker's film. It's not really Batman's movie. The story and all of the conflict kicks off upon Joker's arrival. I think the casting is just perfect. I mean, Jack Nicholson as the Joker, it's like, is he even acting? Is he even acting, or is he just being Jack Nicholson? He's got the laugh, he's got the look, he's just the king of playing maniacal characters. I'm under no shock or illusion that he was the guy they called. It makes perfect sense. And he has so much fun with it. He brings this role to life so nicely. In my humble opinion, he's the second best Joker we've ever had. He comes second to the late, great Heath Ledger. Where I do think he beats Heath, however, is he is the most fun Joker. If you want to have fun, if you want to be a bit giddy in his presence, Jack Nicholson's Joker is the one. Heath's Joker is just a little bit more complex in his thought and a bit more of an enigma. You don't really know much about him except for that he is here to disrupt the balance of odds, Disrupt the balance of odds. God, that was fancy of me, wasn't it? I don't know if that really makes sense, but I'll roll with it. I'll pretend it makes sense. I even think the humour of the Joker here is so spot on. It's so twisted. My favourite bit, actually, is when Jack Nicholson grabs Bob and he tells him, "You're my number one guy." Because, yeah, as much as it's funny, but it's actually a complete and utter callback to when someone said that to Jack Nicholson at the very beginning of the movie before he was set up. It's like he's turning to his best mate and telling him, "I'm screwing you over right now." And he finds that funny. That's great. I think that's so the Joker. I think that's so bang on. He's a total firework of a character, and you can't help but just enjoy his presence here. I even think Kim Basinger, whatever one it is, I think she's pretty good here. She has probably the toughest role because Keaton and Nicholson have a lot to sink their teeth into. There's a lot of depth to these characters that they can really explore and really find who they are and what they're about. Whereas Vicky Vale is very surface level. There really isn't much depth to her. She is very much written as a damsel in distress, especially towards the end. And I feel like Kim, I'm just going to call her Kim B. Kim B. I feel like Kim B really elevated it. She really made it have some personality, even with small things like when she would be scared of the Joker or when she feels a bit more comfortable around him. Maybe she's got a plan in her mind. I think she does as well with it as she possibly could, but I don't think the writing necessarily helps her. And I don't always buy the chemistry between Keaton and Kim B, because, again, not their performances, but it's the writing. It doesn't feel flirty. Check out this line. This one just cracks me up.
You weigh a little more than 108.
Emotional, damn it!
I think this movie has pretty solid pacing. It isn't like a 100-mile-an-hour ride to the moon and back. It does have downtime and it does explore its world, and I appreciate that about it. I think it balances it nicely. I think the soundtrack is I like Prince. I'm a big fan of Prince, but it doesn't belong here. It's weird and it ages the film badly. It sticks out like a sore thumb. I get it, Prince was very big back then. I can totally see why you'd want to get him in on a film like this to do a soundtrack and, you know, make more money out of it, but it hasn't translated well to 2022. In fact, that whole art scene where they're throwing paint over the models and the pictures, I'm not even being prissy, I just think that scene's just a bit tame for the Joker. I like to think he's a bit more dangerous than punching a Mona Lisa. Do you know what I mean? And that also asks the question of, has this film aged well in general? And I'd say yeah, actually. Generally speaking, yeah, it has aged all right. It absolutely feels like it's made in the 80s. I mean, just from the haircuts alone and the turtleneck sweaters. But then there's things like the Batmobile that you're just like, that's incredible. That almost feels ahead of its time. But then there's other scenes where it feels quite lazy and almost amateur dramatic. There's one scene in particular, I've hated this shot since the first time I've seen it. I don't like the framing. I don't like the way the characters are responding to each other. I don't like that Bruce Wayne is in some mental trance that makes no sense and he's getting shot. I don't like this scene at all. This specific bit, this bit, bloody hell, Elliot. This specific bit. Everything prior to that is great. The pen truly is mightier than the sword. I think that's a fantastic line. It's just this part that I'm going to show you that I can't stand that. I don't think it looks good at all. I also don't like the fact that the Joker sort of drops his own game plan of causing chaos and just starts fancying Vicky Vale and thinking, oh, she's the love of my life now, based off seeing her in a photograph, a black and white photograph where, you know, you can't see all the imperfections and everything. Not Vince Kim B or a very attractive woman, I'm just saying. It's a weird turn, it comes out of nowhere, it doesn't feel very Joker-like at all, and it feels like it gets away with it because Jack Nicholson and Keaton and Kim B are performing it so well, and that's why it feels better than it actually is, because on paper, I don't like it at all, and even having seen it, I still don't love it, but I appreciate that it works enough. But then, having done some research on this movie, I actually found out a lot of this script was just changed on the fly. Apparently the whole cathedral showdown at the end never meant to happen. Was never, ever in the original script. That just sort of came about one day and they went, okay, we'll do that. That worries me, if I'm being honest, when I hear things like that. That makes me think that this film is going to be a disaster. So the fact that it isn't a disaster almost makes me a little bit impressed, strangely. I think the action is okay. I think it's good for its time, but I don't think the action has aged that fantastically well. There's one bit that's always made me laugh because I don't even really get what he does. So some dude literally like defies gravity and just flies directly with his feet first at Batman, because that's how gravity works. And Batman just seems to literally like palm him off. He just like puts his palm on him and just says, no, you're gonna go over here now. I've never understood it. I don't know what's going on there, but it makes me laugh, so I'll take it for that. Ultimately, I really do like this film. There's so much to talk about. There's so much to take away from it. I think the performances are top notch, and I think it absolutely plays into Tim Burton's hands. And I think he only has even further fun with it in Batman Returns. I always get Batman Returns and Batman Forever mixed up. The Catwoman Penguin one, you know, I'm pretty sure it's Batman Returns. It's been a while. Hang on. Yes, Batman Returns. Why am I a fucking idiot? I'm sorry, people. Bear with me today, it's Sunday. I think it's a great film for its time. I think it's a great film to revisit. I think it's a great grandfather to this untimely series of Batman movies that we have been given since. So I'm going to give Batman 89 a 9 out of 10. Is that slander? Are some of you going to hate me? Is this the dastardly work of a millennial? Yeah, it is. But I have to be honest with myself. As much as I respect this movie and can totally understand the call for this to be put into the IMO Hall of Fame, I also have to recognise the fact that I can willingly and quite easily point out several flaws with this movie. Nothing major, nothing groundbreaking, but flaws nonetheless. And therefore I can't willingly sit here and give it the 11 out of 10, when in my heart of hearts I don't believe it is. I think how I would describe it is that this film deserves a VIP pass to the Hall of Fame, and it can visit on weekends for free. That's where it belongs for me personally, and I'm very sorry if some of you are offended by that. Many of you would have grown up with this movie, watched the VHS to death, and you probably, for you, it's just timeless, and I absolutely respect that and understand that, and you just have to recognise that this was way before my time. Thank you for watching this review. Please be sure to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button, and please be sure to hit the comment section. Are you excited to see Rob Batman's Batman? And how do you feel about Batman 89? How do you feel about the Batman films in general? What's your ranking? Where does it sort of line up for you? I imagine quite a lot of you will have The Dark Knight at the top. Take care, and I'll see you on the next review.